Shut up and sit down.
And here he is from Madison, just back from the U.S. Open, is Andy North, two-time winner of that championship. And Andy, I'm not sure that the golf tournament was a super great one. Torrey Pines was good, but clearly Jon Rahm was terrific, a deserved champion, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. He was my pick at the beginning of the week, so I was really pleased the way he handled things. I just thought that he was on a mission. I thought he handled the whole COVID thing beautifully, and I'm a big believer in karma and good things happening when people do things the right way. And the guy's a great player. He's going to win a ton of majors, and he is really, really going to be here for a long time and be a guy that's going to be hard to beat.
Mm-hmm.
I love that John talks about how you won that tournament twice, Andy, and John has this thing at the beginning of the show, and we certainly launched Inside Wisconsin a few months back, as I share with you off the air. He says, Andy North is every bit the Badger, even though he didn't play here. And it made me think, how did you get so good at golf growing up in Wisconsin? Because, I mean, this isn't exactly, as John puts it, the golf capital of the world.
That's kind of an interesting story. I got into the golf completely by accident. I was in seventh grade. I had a bone disease, osteochondritis dissecans, and I had to go with non-weight bearing for 2 years. I was on crutches for 2 years. And I went to my trusty World Book, the Apple computer of my era. And I literally went to the doctor's office with a list of 25 or 30 sports. We went down sport after sport after sport. And he said, no, you can't do any of this stuff. And we got to golf, and he wasn't a golfer, and basically convinced him to let me try it. You know, if I rode a cart and used the crutches and whatever, he had no idea the stress it put on my knee. But that's how I got started, and I threw myself into it. And 4 years later, I was a state champion. So it was the worst thing. And I use this a lot talking to kids, that the absolute worst thing in the world that could have ever happened to me maybe ended up turning out maybe being the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. 4 years. That's a pretty rapid ascension for those of us that have been working 4 decades just to break 80.
Well, you know,
but seriously,
I was a good athlete. I played a gazillion sports, and when it's the only thing you can do, I mean, shoot, I went to the golf course in the morning, and someone picked me up when it got dark. You know, I'd play 36, 54 holes a day, chip and putt, do all kinds of stuff. And, you know, it was the only thing I could do. And I threw myself into it. And I think I got some great coaching early on from a guy named Lee Milligan, who was my only real coach other than my dad for 50 years. And got me doing some things proper early on, and I improved. And I think that's the biggest thing, is if you're improving and you can see the improvement and you put the work in and you can see it week after week after week get better, it's easy to come back and keep working hard.
I feel like the guy that knew you at 12 and 15 sometimes is the most trusted voice. And I don't care how good Butch Harmon is or some of these other guys, is like, maybe that's the guy who should be in your ear the whole time, all the time. Well,
I was lucky that the guy that worked with me is named Lee Milligan. He was had a great concept of what he thought you should do to try to play the game well, and a lot of it was just real basic fundamentals. And then you know, sometimes you can listen to somebody, you don't understand at all what they're talking about. We're wavelength from day one. And he actually took me to see Manuel de la Torre, real famous teaching hockey, when I was like 16, just to make sure that we were on the right track. And Mr. de la Torre thought, I was doing great and moving the right direction, and that just enhanced the confidence that I was getting from Lee. And you know, we had a lot of fun doing it. And he was a master of the short game, and I learned a lot of stuff around the greens from him, and besides full swing stuff. But it was a great relationship that, you know, I miss him every single day. I go out and hit balls now, wishing that he was there watching.
So, Andy, I've lived in Wisconsin my entire life, and John rips on me because that didn't start until 1983. And I had to do a little educating Trevor on your victories in 78 and 85 of that U.S. Open Championship, because I was 2 the second time around.
So you missed the lilac pants is what I'm saying right now, Trevor, right?
Got it.
Bold fashion statement. Like
Good.
you weren't Champagne Tony Lima, but you were nice.
Hey, I was good. I had some great stuff. Some great
I
stuff.
did see that in my research. All right. So we talked about this whole thing with the internet and all that. There's this thing called trolling nowadays where people troll people on the internet. Andy, you got trolled by this announcer when you won the 85 championship. John, have you seen this? This guy goes, never, when Andy had this putt to win the 85 U.S. Open, he says, never, ever give up. Not after a string of injuries, not after a 7-year drought. And then he says this, not after you hit every bunker on the golf course. What the heck? Who is this guy?
That was the truth. I was terrible on Sunday at Oakland Hills for my second win. Absolutely terrible. I hit it beautifully the first 3 days. And the last day, woke up and it was one of those days you just didn't have it at all. I hit a shot out of a fairway bunker at the 12th hole, and things kind of felt like it was in the right place. And I actually hit some good shots the rest of the day. So thank heavens you figured it out at some point in time. But I think I made 8 bogeys that week for the week, and I made 5 of them that day on Sunday.
Wow.
So then Trevor's not going to know this. So Hogan wins there, right? And he says, I brought the monster to its knees. What did you say then when you putted out and won?
Yeah, I was just happy to get it over. I'm glad there wasn't another hole or two. But I was the first guy to finish under par in a major championship there. So that was kind of cool. Hogan didn't do it. Littler didn't do it when he won there. Goodall didn't do it when he won. So, that was neat to do it. Steve Jones shot under par when he won. And then, since then it's the game's changed.
It has, right? Because I watched these guys the other day with that ball and the clubs they have. It makes the game easier. I don't care if it's not just making the game easier for me recreationally. If you're really that good, the game is easier in some of those places.
Well, you brought up the fact that you think it helps you. I don't think it's helped the average player anywhere near as much as it's helped the really good player.
Right.
Our guys can create so much speed with this new equipment. They can hit it at 8 miles. And that's how the game's changed so dramatically, is that, you just blast it down there as far as you can hit it, and you wedge it on the green and you move on. But it caught up to guys yesterday. I'm still a firm believer that if you can put it in the fairway, you've got a better chance to win than if you're in the rough all day long.
Just give people an example of how hard that is. And Trevor, I don't mean to name drop, but Andy, when we were sitting out there one time at Open, Curtis Strange had said to me, he said, people talk about how well you have to drive it. But he said, it's really hard around those greens and where the pin position is. He said, if I gave you the ideal, I'm going to walk it out every hole and I'm going to give you a 250-yard drive, because that's what you might be able to hit if you're a pretty decent recreational player. I'm going to put it in the middle of the fairway, 250 yards out. He goes, and I still don't think most people can break 100.
Yeah, I agree. That golf course last week, if you take a decent, what I wanted to do, and I proposed to ESPN about 20 years ago, the day after the U.S. Open, let me take a 6 handicap, a 12, an 18, and a 25, and have them go out there and play the golf course. Same tees, whatever, real rules, count shots, have to putt out, whatever. And I think they'd shoot 20 shots over their handicap.
Yeah, you wouldn't get done.
No, it would take run out of if you only had so many balls to start with, you'd run out, because it's hard enough to find them when you've got people out there.
I'll be your 25 handicap if you need a guy.
There you go.
Is that trophy heavy? I never lifted it. Is it
9 pounds? Yeah.
Not too bad?
No. You'd like to do some 10-pound curls with one in each arm. That would be
hey.
Well,
you can.
If in fact you had two, yeah. So, by the way, here's the respect I get. When we were in Marion, Andy, they were out there, and so they're taking some NBC shots of Hogan's 1-iron. They get it out of the old whatever it is golf house there in New Jersey, and they bring it down, and there's a guy with the white gloves, right? And he's sitting there, and it's got an unbelievable right inside the on the face, but it's a little inside towards the heel, right? I was really surprised that it was not the sweet spot's not right in the middle. So here's Hogan, and Curtis walks up there and he said, "May I hold it?" And they look at him, right? Because he's like you, he's got two, and they give him the white gloves, and he, sure, here it is, Mr. Strange. And he holds it, and he's looking, he goes, "That's just amazing, you know." And so I go, "May I hold it?" And they go, "You go to hell." I didn't say, "Hey, can we drop a bucket of them and let's just hit?" I just wanted to hold it. Yeah, I was denied. I was not afforded that opportunity.
Well, Curtis obviously didn't fight very hard to help you.
No, nor should he. Nor should he when he comes through.
So, okay, we're talking about how much has changed in the game. Andy, you just participated, and I know it didn't go the way you wanted it to, but in your 6th decade of playing golf at the AmFam Championship down in Madison, what has changed in 6 decades? Maybe, is there like a top 5 list you could give us of the top 5 things that you think have changed?
There's so many things that have changed. I think you can start with equipment. Obviously, there's been unbelievable changes from wood to metal, a wound soft golf ball to a solid or a multi-piece solid ball that you can control the spin. You can make it spin whatever you want it to. Agronomy has changed dramatically. The tees now probably putt about the same speed as the greens did when we first started. I mean, there are tournament courses we played that had single row irrigation systems, if they had irrigation at all. So if you hit it in the rough, it was like concrete. You actually used to try to play shots down the rough lines, curving it toward the fairway so that the first bounce would be in the rough. It could gain you 15 or 20 yards a lot of times. So, I mean, there's been so many different aspects of the game, the teaching of the game, the video, and now they're delving into the analytics of it. So, I mean, there's so many different things that have changed, but still there's a person at the end of that club still trying to swing it. And if you can't swing it well, it doesn't matter what you do with all the other things.
In my prep for us chatting with you, I was on YouTube today and I'm searching Andy North, just wondering what videos I'm going to come up with. And I clicked on this thing that said 5 super simple golf tips from Andy North. And I was like, all right, here we go. I'm going to improve my game. 4.5 minutes into these 5 super simple golf tips from Andy North, I was up to 37 tips. I was trying to count all the tips that were coming out of your mouth. I don't stand a chance. Just forget it.
Well, I think, and technology is awesome, but you have to understand how to use it. And I think this last generation of players have done a really good job of understanding how to use it. But I think, some of the analytics stuff, I think, can get carried away. To be able to take a 5-iron and hit it 150 yards, 170 yards, or 185 yards, and to the average guy, it didn't look much different. To me, that was fun. By curving it, by hitting it high, hitting it low, whatever you had to do. I think some of that art form has been lost. And to me, that was as much fun as shooting a good score is hitting shots.
So you're telling me that you and Tom Watson didn't sit around talking launch angles in the practice bay back in the day?
Not any idea of that. We spent a lot of time playing practice rounds together. We would hit a lot of shots, and we'd have contests, and we'd have what we call a shot that, I'd get up and, I'm going to hit a 20-yard hook down the right side of the fairway and hook it back. And then he'd try to do the same thing. And, that kind of stuff that I think it made us better players. But yeah, we didn't delve into the technique of this. It was so much more feel and trying to figure out a way to get it around.
You've played all over the world. I mean, that's part of being a touring pro and a good one. I mean, did you ever think, here you are, you said you're growing up, that the idea that Wisconsin would host U.S. Opens, that Wisconsin's got the Ryder Cup coming, that it's hosted PGAs. I mean,
it's pretty.
It's remarkable, right? How does that happen? How does that happen where we are? It's shocking.
Well, I think, first of all, a lot of kudos goes to the Kohler family for working hard to get the initial PGA there, and that opened up
Mhm.
people when they saw uh, gazillions of Wisconsinites out there. And I mean, we've got great fans in every single sport. I mean, from college women's volleyball to the Packers. I mean, it's full gamut.
Mhm.
People support it, and I think that's one of the things that's so cool about getting some of these tournaments. Last year, to have the Ryder Cup in the middle of the COVID would have been a disaster, and it looks like we're going to be able to have maybe 40,000 fans there this September, which will be a blast. It'll be so much fun. It's a great state for supporting their teams. And it's to see the Brewers wearing Buck uniforms going to the game before Game 7, wearing Packer stuff before the playoff games. Those are things that are really cool, and to have 3 MVPs currently playing in the state, there's not a lot of places that can say that.
And if we could only get Aaron Rodgers to wear red, huh?
Oh, he wears some red. He definitely wears some red.
I think what we want him to wear is green and gold again, and we may touch on that when we come back. More with Andy North right after this. Helpful critiques, ideas, great stories, people we should know, the great bar in your town, the fish fry you want to know, the fish boil, anything that you want to reach out to us with. We are happy. We are here. You can be the inputters. We're here to listen.
Shut up and sit down.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic.